Chapter 1. The wall between us. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. And before I could even turn, he was already there, towering, consuming, the air bending around him like shadows obeying their master. I hated the way my pulse betrayed me, hated that my chest tightened not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. "You've been ignoring me," he said, voice deep, low, and sharp as a blade. I forced a smirk, though my throat felt dry. "Maybe I finally learned how to breathe without you choking the air out of me." His laugh was humorless, a dark, wicked sound. "You think you can survive without me? Little liar." And then he moved too fast, too certain. My back hit the cold wall and his palm pressed beside my head, caging me in. His body was close enough that the heat of him seeped into me, burning through every last layer of defiance I wore. My lips parted, but before I could spit back a retort, his hand gripped my chin, tilting my face up. My breath hitched as his eyes devoured me, dragging me down into that storm of madness I swore I'd never drown in again. "You don't breathe without me," he whispered, his lips brushing mine but not closing the distance. "You don't move without me. You don't exist without me." I should have pushed him off, screamed, anything, but instead, I found myself whispering, "You're insane." His smirk curved, dangerous and perfect. "Maybe, but insanity is loyal, and I'll be loyal to ruining you." He kissed me then hard, punishing, desperate. His mouth claimed mine like it was the last air he'd ever take. My knees weakened, my resolve shattered, and all that was left was fire. His hands weren't gentle. They slid down, gripping my waist before pulling me flush against him. I gasped into his mouth when I felt his hunger press against my stomach, thick and demanding. "You hate me," he growled between kisses, his hand sliding lower, fingers grazing the edge of my thigh. "Yes," I whispered breathlessly. "I hate you." "Then why?" he murmured, teeth grazing my lower lip. "Do you melt every time I touch you?" Before I could answer, his hand slipped under the hem of my dress, dragging it upward. The cold air of the room kissed my skin, but his touch was hotter, rougher, leaving trails of fire across my thighs. When his fingers brushed against the heat of my center, I bit my lip to stifle the sound threatening to escape. "Already trembling?" he mocked, dark eyes glinting. "For someone who swears she despises me, your body seems eager to be mine." I tried to twist away, but his other hand grabbed my wrist, pinning it against the wall above my head. His mouth trailed down my jaw, to my throat, biting, marking, claiming. "Stop," I breathed, though my voice shook with need. "Say it like you mean it," he challenged, pressing his length harder against me, his fingers teasing the edge of my core, circling but not giving me what I craved. "Stop," I whispered again, weaker this time, because every nerve in my body screamed the opposite. He leaned closer, lips brushing my ear. "No, you don't get to stop me. Not when you're mine." And when his fingers finally slid into my heat, I gasped, my back arching against the wall. His smirk widened as he drank in my reaction. "That's it," he whispered, his rhythm cruel and perfect. "Hate me all you want, princess, but I'll own every broken breath you take." And in that moment, I knew whether I loved him or hated him, I'd never escape. Chapter 2. The power struggle. The morning after should have been quiet, should have been a moment of regret. But when I woke up in his bed, tangled in sheets that smelled like him, his arm draped across my waist, there was no regret, only fire. "Still here," he murmured, voice rough from sleep, lips brushing my shoulder. "Good girl." I turned, narrowing my eyes. "I'm not your anything," he smirked, rolling on top of me, pinning me down with his weight. "Not yet, but you will be." His length pressed against my core, and I gasped, trying to twist away. But his hand gripped my wrists, caging me beneath him. His kiss was rough, urgent, biting down until I moaned against his mouth. "You can fight me," he growled, sliding into me with one brutal thrust. "But you'll always bend." And I hated how much my body betrayed me, arching, shuddering, taking him deeper until there was no fight left. Only surrender. Chapter 3. Jealousy Burns. He didn't like when anyone looked at me. That much was clear when we walked into the club together and as strangers. Gaze lingered too long. The next thing I knew, his hand was gripping my thigh under the table, squeezing hard enough to bruise. "Enjoying the attention?" he whispered darkly, his mouth at my ear. I rolled my eyes, pretending indifference, but my pulse raced. Maybe. The fury in his eyes was lethal. He dragged me out of the club, shoved me into the car, and before I could speak, his lips crushed mine. When we got back, he didn't waste time. My back hit the door, his hands tearing at my dress, his length pressing against me even before we reached the bedroom. "You'll never belong to anyone else," he snarled, thrusting into me hard enough to make me cry out. "I'll ruin you so completely, no one will dare touch what's mine." And the worst part, I wanted him too. Chapter 4. The obsession deepens. It wasn't love. It was war. A war that neither of us wanted to win. Because losing meant surrendering, and surrender meant bliss. He followed me everywhere. When I locked the door, he picked it. When I ignored his calls, he showed up in person. "You're insane," I hissed when he cornered me in the kitchen one night. His chest pressed to my back, his lips brushing my neck. "And you like it," he murmured, sliding his hand between my thighs, parting them. I gasped as his fingers found my core. "You're mine now," he said, thrusting into me deeper, rougher, until the bed shook. And I didn't care if it was love or madness. All I cared was that it was him. Chapter 10. The point of no return. By the time he took me against the window, city lights spilling over our bodies, there was no going back. He moved inside me with brutal intensity, his hands gripping my thighs, spreading me wider, claiming me in every way. "You'll never leave me," he whispered against my lips. "Never," I gasped, nails digging into his back. And when we both shattered together, pressed against the glass, I knew the truth. He was my ruin, my obsession, my everything, and I was his.